Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming early this morning. As Sergey was saying, my name is Ricardo Dal Farra. My topic will be around understanding visual music from your personal screen to full-blown immersive experiences. There is some feedback, if you can fix it. Okay. Visual music. I mean, I was talking, if you were here the past year, maybe you hear me a little bit talking about visual music. I'm going to show again a few things from them because many people really like it. Visual music has to do with a lot of different things. Sometimes it's visualized music, sometimes you're working on sound with images, but it's a completely different way of working than when we think about cinema. Usually it's a non-hierarchical correlation between sound and image. But I mean, this is not something really new. This started many years ago. If you think about, like, for example, Theremin in the early 20s of the past century, he was already talking about visual music. Leon Theremin, who was inventing the famous musical instrument, the theremin or theremin box that you could play just moving your hands in the air with a couple of antennas. I mean, we are talking about 100 years ago, and he was already thinking about how to produce visual music. Also, Eisenstein, also in the 20s and in Russia, I mean, talking about contrapuntal work between images and sound, but not necessarily in a synchronized way. That the interesting things will be coming exactly of not having these synchronized ideas about that everything in music and sound should be always put together. And then we have things like sound on film and graphical sounds that was developed a lot also in Russia, like the ANS. This is the only model they were doing between the 30s until the 50s. And this is a system where you can draw. What you can draw in this system can be turned into music. But for example, if you know some of the movies of Tarkovsky, like Solaris, The Mirror, Stalker, I mean, the music was done with this instrument, the ANS. Here, McLaren was doing a lot of work around visual music. Of course, he's a pioneer in that field and is very well known over the world, but it's less known his work on 3D. He was doing a lot of experiments, and lately, like I would say in the last couple of years, his work around explorations on 3D were becoming more and more known. And coming back to what I was just saying on these ideas of turning graphics into sound, for example, this is during the mid-60s, where a system, this was in Buenos Aires in the mid-60s, where Fernando von Reichenbach was developing a system where you can draw on a piece of paper just with a pencil. So you can draw and erase, but then whatever you was drawing could be taken with a camera and converted into a voltage that can be used to control, for example, a synthesizer, any voltage control oscillator, voltage control filters, voltage control amplifiers, etc. So this is something that led to many other developments around the world. If you want to explore things around visual music, I mean, here in Montreal, we have the Langlois Foundation for Art, Science and Technology that has been exploring a lot of things, and you can go to the database that is online on the website of the Daniel Langlois Foundation. It's really an amazing amount of information about the visual music. Especially, for example, the funds on Stein and Woody Basulka, or information even about instruments that were being used for creating visual music, or in some cases just to transform visuals. Less known is what Raúl Pavón was doing in the early 60s, for example, the icophone or icophone, where he was creating images, like Lissajous images, working between synthesizers and an oscilloscope that he was projecting the images of the oscilloscope. He was one of the first ones developing voltage control synthesizers, even before Moog and Buchla in the US. That was done in Mexico in early 60s, and a few years after there were developments here in Canada around the same system. And if you're interested in visual music, you could be also interested in this kind of publications from Brazil, where in this case you have Sergio Basbaum, who was publishing on synesthesia, art and technology, and he was referring a lot to the work of Jorge Antunes, and Jorge Antunes is a composer, but also has been working a lot in visual music since the early 60s. Because I'm usually talking about visual music from other composers, I decided to bring a couple of works of my own, just because one of them is shown in a very simple way behind you. It's being projected there. This is a piece called Decoding Reality, and was done completely with algorithmic generated images. No, it's okay. So these algorithmic images that cannot be very well, we have too much light maybe here to see the images, but this is a project where you can mix, if you want, in some way. It's talking about what is reality. The name of the piece is focusing on that, decoding reality, and basically is trying to see what these kind of images that are, it looks artificial and sometimes are, sometimes not, but basically it's a mix of things where the images are like trying to bring you where the people is, where reality is, what reality is. And it's at the same time, if you go through the images, it's slowly moving, but all the sounds from life are really like apart. The people, the water, everything that means life are really apart from these images that looks without people in any way. So what it is reality, what we perceive as reality, that's part of the meaning of this piece, but I mean, I'm just approaching some basic ideas of the piece. That was done a few years ago, and it's sometimes, the way of presenting is really through an installation like this. Here we are just making a small projection to have an idea of what the piece is about. And another piece called Organic, this is also an algorithmic work, where all the images that you can see here, and the organic comes from the organicity of the fluidity that you can see in these images that are really like constantly moving, and everything starts from the same algorithm. So every single image you can see here became like originated from the same algorithm. But maybe one of the things that was interesting for me when doing this work, just let me play a little bit, is that all the sounds are also coming from the analysis of the image. So it's not just this one algorithm was generating this image, but everything happening during the piece that is about 10 minutes long. In the piece, you perceive that everything comes together. And there is synchronicity and there is non-synchronicity many times. So it's not what you expect all the time that is going to be happening. So Organic was shown here at the Canadian-China International Film Festival the past year. And all this work and my interest for many years in visual music was leading me to start a series called Understanding Visual Music that was done the first time here at Concordia in 2011. We had a lot of people and a lot of work coming from all over the world, and was working so well that we decided to make it again in 2013. That was in Buenos Aires. And in Buenos Aires, there was a different challenge, because here we made some concepts that were really complex, took a lot of work. We were using until the last cable and adapter of the D.B. Clark. So it was not for the traditional concert, but for the live concert with visual music were really hard to do. So I decided to start something different, and we started to do something in planetariums. And that was amazing because started like a long series of works in different full dome places around the world. And all these people you're seeing here that were in Buenos Aires are major figures in the visual music world that were presenting in Buenos Aires at that time. So all this program that was done in Canada, Buenos Aires, and then here in Brasilia, capital of Brazil, were the first three Understanding Visual Music Symposium. This is the one that we did in Buenos Aires, with a lot of people, really an amazing place. These are some of the images of the concert there, with pieces from artists from around the world. But we like really a lot doing this. It was very successful. In November we are going to do another 4 concerts with visual music in that same planetarium. But we thought that could be interesting not just to do that, because who knows how to produce for planetariums? I mean, who knows how to, not just doing the content, but how to adapt the aesthetics, the techniques, the technology that we are using in planetarium is not that simple. Each planetarium is a little bit different. The standards are not so well known. There are not that many standards. There is a society trying to put together a standard for a full dome exhibitions, but has not been so easy. So let me show you what we did. We put together a 1-year workshop for the people to learn how to produce for planetariums. So that's really an unusual thing. So during this year, well, we were opening like a call for people from Argentina and other countries around. So there were like 50 interdisciplinary groups applying for this workshop. We were choosing about 15. They were meeting each 2 months, receiving things around like techniques, technologies, aesthetics, etc. And they were producing. Each 2 months they were producing a number of seconds or minutes and showing and testing what they were producing. So this is one of the final results from a group from Brasilia that they were traveling from Santa Maria in Brazil. They were traveling all the time to Argentina to do this course. So after 1 year, they were finally producing this work. And if you see this other piece, this piece is done by the group who is working on the visual design career at the University of Buenos Aires. So they were producing this other work. So in fact, Carlos Trilling is a historical figure in Argentina and Latin America because he has been working in video and visual arts and visual music for many, many years. So they were producing this piece as an outcome of this workshop. Just this is to give you an idea of what's going on this field and what we have been doing during these past few years. These are some other pictures taken also from the same planetarium, including this picture and this picture are from Matthew Biederman and Alain Thibault. That Alain is well known here because he's running the Electra Festival and the Biennale of Electronic Arts here in Montreal. And this piece is from Larry Cuba. He's a pioneer of visual music, and this is a very old piece that he was adapting specifically for the full dome exhibition here in Buenos Aires. Originally, this is for a traditional format screening. This is a piece like late 70s that he was specifically, as I was saying, adapting for this show. So the next step is to have another Understanding Visual Music conference next year. We are preparing this in the Multimedia Center of the National Center for the Arts in Mexico, and if everything goes well, there will be a specific section of full dome exhibition, and this is going to be done in a network of planetariums around Mexico, not just in one, but at the same time we expect to run this in at least 8 planetariums around Mexico. one of the works we are going to show there is a piece from Carmen Gil from Colombia. This is just an excerpt. She just won a prize with this piece. I'm just going to play a few seconds. And a little bit of the end. Just a few seconds at least for you to have an idea of her work. Okay, so this, just to end my presentation, these are just a few more photos from the planetarium, and the kind of works we are doing are crossing many times art, science, and technology. In fact, what you're seeing here is from a collective from Turkey and Germany, and the images you're seeing here are part of a program called From Micro to Macro, because the images are coming from a petri dish, a biological tissue that is being filmed in real time, and this is being projected over the whole dome of the planetarium. Same here and here are being done in exactly the same way. So if you're interested in visual music, I hope you can join us next year in Mexico.